good evening, good afternoon. My name is Tatiana Koval, and this is podcast Happy at Work. In our podcast, we discuss different topics about employee happiness, about people-centered culture, about employer branding. And today, I am happy to see here the guests from 15 countries in our podcast. This is from Serbia. This is Katarina. Hi, Katarina.
Hi, thank you for the invitation, Tatiana.
Happy to see you here. And my first questions for you. Please, could you tell a little bit about you to my audience, about your professional experience, and maybe about you as a person? I think it's also important to know the people who you start to communicate.
Of course. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I'm Katarina. I'm calling from Belgrade, from Serbia. So it's Balkans. I'm in employer branding from 2017, and another love that I have is design thinking. So I'm a practitioner of design thinking methodology from 2020. And what is very interesting about me is that I'm very community connected. So I founded the ample community here in Serbia. We are gathering employer branding professionals and everyone who would like to become one. And personally, I love coffee. I'm a coffee lover. And from time to time, I like to work with kids. I'm a taekwondo coach. So I like to mentor them in these sports too. So yeah, that's a bit for the start.
That's great. I hope to see you in Brazil because here you have a very wonderful coffee. My first questions for you, because we decided to focus not only the total area of employer branding. For me, it's very big area, but it's very interesting to discuss this area from a different perspective. And today we decided to discuss the design thinking and how to use it for employer branding in the companies. My first questions for you. Could you describe your approach, how to use effectively design thinking in the process of employer brand management?
Yes. So for the beginning, it was important for me to share that design thinking is a methodology, but it's also some kind of mindset, like the way you approach things, the way you solve problems, and the way you actually structure your processes. So when I met design thinking as a methodology, it was interesting for me because I had some kind of structure. I had a lot of tools. It was very intuitive for me to use it. But when I started implementing parts of the process in employer branding world, I understood it's more of a mindset that we really need in employer branding, especially if we are designing strategic processes and if we want to make our solutions sustainable. So what I mean by that is that in design thinking, we are having our customers as the center of the process. And if we are transferring it to employer branding world, it's about our employees and about our candidates. So when we put them in the center of the process and when we are human centric, we can really get deeply into understanding their needs, into creating very custom solutions, to make some kind of differentiation of our brand on our market. So it's up to them to decide if they want to choose us, but it's also up to us to co-design these processes. This is the first thing that really changed my approach, and I really love the way this methodology is designed, so you can really understand their perspective. The second thing that really impacted my work in employer branding is this co-creation moment. So in design thinking, it's always about facilitating some steps, about using some interactive tools. After, it's about testing, so being a bit agile before you actually implement some practices. So this approach really freshened up the way I do things, and it really actually brought more concrete and more high quality solutions, because when you work with different stakeholders and when you work with employees, you can really create relevant solutions. So this was the second thing that was really important to me. And the third thing that I would really like to emphasize, because anyone who is listening to us right now maybe starts Googling design thinking, what are the tools, how is it working? You don't need to use all the tools or the whole process from the scratch till the end for everything that you're doing. You can really just use, for example, how you create personas, or how you create employees' journey, or how you actually design and actually test your solutions. So only parts of the process you can use in order to start and to try and to feel some results out of it. So I would say that it's pretty agile methodology itself. So this mindset actually really impacted me mostly. And when I started, I really started small. I really started just with personas, and then I started just with mapping out the experience. And then it was more about brainstorming about interactions, and then it was more about EVP. So when you start, you can start small, and if you see this really brings you results, you can also use this mindset in, for example, EVP design. It's something I'm doing with all of my clients and with all the people I'm mentoring right now, because it really makes sense. If you understand that EVP should be visible from the candidate or employee point of view, you can really easily design these touch points. So yeah, I hope I answered to your question.
Yes, I think it's the great ideas about using design thinking in the process, and absolutely sure what it's very, very useful. I want to go deeper in this process. And my next question is about designing your EVP. Because design thinking can help us to build a more people-centric EVP for different audience. Could you share your approach? How do you usually help companies to build a more people-centric EVP for company for maybe different audience? Because sometimes you have in one company different audience, and it's better to not one size fit all, and we understand what we have a difference. Could you share examples from your experience how design thinking helps you to create the best EVP for particular audience or particular company?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the topic I really researched a lot, and I really tested it in practice with my clients. So all the steps that we already have when designing an EVP can be human centric. It really depends how you do them and how you approach them. So if you have some kind of interaction with your main stakeholders, which are your employees and your potential candidates, you will create a human-centered solution. So the first step is always the research, and how we do the research, how we gather data. It's fine to have some surveys. It's fine to understand the local market. It's fine to understand any data you already have. That's cool. You have to start with that. And the main difference, I would say, is about this one-on-one interviews we do with employees, is about understanding their perspective and concrete answers. So you won't be having any generic solutions. You will be having, if we speak about, for example, support, or it was like an example on my mind. Some companies like to communicate some kind of support they're offering to their employees or candidates. And when you speak to people, you can understand what they mean by support, like what are their examples from their lives, and you can be inspired by that, and then to understand what is really unique thing that you are already now doing. And what I like to say and what I'm preaching for is that EVP should be something you are already delivering. So it's a promise. It has to be true. You cannot put something that's in the future. It really has to be the truth in this moment. So while speaking with employees one-on-one, I'm emphasizing this because it's a very important part of design thinking process and the research, where we are trying to understand what are the main motivators. So what motivates them at work, and what are the main reasons they're choosing us as an employer. And these two questions are main questions that we have in the process. And these motivators are actually showing us the differences between people inside. So you mentioned these different audiences. Motivators, I would say, are the most important thing in my work, because demographics and sometimes one person can have same motivators no matter the age, or no matter the location, or no matter the team where they are. So when you understand the motivators and how they describe them, I think this is the first step. And this impacts our EVP, like how we will design it, and also impacts our personas. So after, when we switch to personas design, I'm also using tools from design thinking world. So we are always using empathy map and persona cards, where we are trying to present their perspective. When you look at this tool, and if you Google it, persona empathy map, you will see how it looks, that you really need to present how they think, how they feel, what is on their mind, what they need to do, what are the quotes, like how would you describe them? And these tools are helping us to be more people and human centric, because they are showcasing their perspective, and they are very useful for briefing all the stakeholders. So for example, if you have new recruiting agency, you can brief them with these tools. If you have a new creative agency, you can also brief them with these tools. If someone new is joining your team and you want to brief them about who is your audience and how they could understand it, you can use these tools. So they are pretty straightforward. You have 2 pages per persona, and I love it because it's very clear, and the structure of the showcase of the data is very, very understandable for anyone. And then when we move forward to EVP and how we decide what is our EVP, so as I mentioned, main parts are what people said, why they are here, and what's most important for them. Then we analyze, okay, what is our competition doing and what we are really offering. And when we decide what is our EVP, we are testing it with employees. So we are showcasing it to few employees, to different personas and profiles, to see how will they react on that. Will they give us good or bad feedback? So I'm not testing it with management only. Of course, they will see it. Of course, HR or employer branding directors will see it, but employees really needs to see it. So here we are people-centric, because we are doing this testing phase in EVP showcasing a step. And then after, when we start with the implementation, when we analyze the touch points, I like to do these workshops with employees also, and to ask them how would they envision some processes, what would be their ideas, what would they suggest, where they work in groups, they have space to present their individual ideas, but also to understand what is the group priority, and to maybe describe how would they like it to look like. Especially when we speak about candidate experience, we can always speak with people who joined us recently. So this is also human-centric approach, because I'm prioritizing ideas by their own suggestions. So it's super clear to me when I describe it like this, like we are doing it all the time. It's just like how you design the CVP, how you actually prepare your stakeholders for implementation. And if you do it like this, they are already ready. So all your important stakeholders are already ready for your EVP, and you can really start implementing it pretty fast. So this cycle shouldn't last longer than 3 or maximum 4 months if the organization is more complex, or if we have some vacations, holidays, etc.
Very, very interesting. Absolutely agree with you. And I think it's important to understand your people. And because when usually I see the situation when a company start to promote employer brand, and they invite some agency for communication campaign, and they start to based on insights from the perspective of people in the agency, but not all the personas who is really working in the company. For example, and we talk about Gen Z, that could be a very, very different person, and for 2 different companies, it could be a very different person, and using the design thinking help us to understand what type of Gen Z candidates could be really interesting for us, not only about the education, but also about personal background. It's really great it's very good to use design thinking tools, empathy map or persona map is for this.
And regarding, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to add, like regarding the differences between generations and how to understand these, you can also use design thinking into understanding these differences, and to actually understanding if you are able to answer to their needs. This is also something I would do, but I wouldn't design my EVP concretely towards only one generation. I think this is not a good way to go. But if I'm creating a strategy in order to be cool employer to Gen Z, I would do some kind of research with them, and I would also use design thinking methodology to approach them and to understand what is their perspective. But I would also say, like, understanding new generations would be maybe a totally separate question for, and also a strategic approach. I think you would need to really do it on a long-term scale. Yeah.
I have another questions about using a design thinking approach for creating the employee and candidate journey map. Because now employee candidate experience is very important part of what HRs in the whole world started manage. I think last 2 or 3 years, especially. What is your approach? What could you recommend to the companies worldwide? How to use design thinking tools if they want to improve their candidate and employee experience based on their candidates and employee journey?
Yes. So yeah, this is a great question, and I think this topic is super important because all of us have it. Like, we can all connect with this topic, and it really depends on how we manage it. And what is the difference between this approach and maybe some other approaches is that most of processes are designed by business needs. Let's say how we are internally organized in order to deliver candidate experience. Our process is mostly organized like that. Like, someone will do the reach out to the candidates. Someone will do the first round, like to see the CVs. Someone will do the interviews, and then someone will do the onboarding. So we are mostly organizing process by our needs or our organization. And what is the difference, and how I like to emphasize this, is that this methodology pushes you a bit to look at the process from the perspective of candidates and from the perspective of employees. And how we do it, and this is very powerful tool because it erases these lines between this is my job, this is your job, and this is their job. It's like the whole experience. We have to look at it holistically because experiences are a holistic topic. And how we approach it is that we start with, okay, what is the current state? How do we map this experience at the current state? And if you Google employee journey map, you will see that, and each tool has some phases, some activities from the point of candidate. Let's say, let's take this as an example. Then you have some like backlog activities, like what is our team doing in order to deliver some kind of activities. And then you have some kind of touch points. So what are our communicational touch points that we can actually manage? And what is super cool here is that then you have an emotional level where you can describe how the candidate is feeling. So when you look at this map, you can obviously see the current state and where are the pain points. So what are the lowest pain points in the process? And you are designing this journey with them. So you have to ask them how your experience looked like. How did you feel at this step? How did you feel at that step? So we have to make it together. It's not me guessing how they feel. It's me asking them how they feel and then creating this map. And when you design the current state, you can understand what are the pain points. So for example, a candidate is waiting 3 weeks to get the feedback if they are in the last round or not. Okay, these 3 weeks are our pain point. Let's try to do some kind of engagement, to send them some kind of materials, to say, hey, we didn't forget you, we are still in the process. In the meantime, check out this blog, check out this video, or whatever. Or for example, which is a very interesting insight from a lot of projects I did, because I'm living in a city that's very jammed with traffic. And sometimes we have pain points for candidates if they have to come to the office, for example, and they have to find a parking spot. And they are already stressed with this parking spot even before they even came to the interview. And this solution can be, just, okay, let's inform them upfront. The parking is very hard to find. You can join our office like this, and this. And you are just lowering the stress, and you don't need to, create a huge solution to be super innovative using AI. You can just do some small human stuff in order to make this experience better. So after creating the current state, then we are trying to attack these pain points and to see how we can improve them. It's more or less the same with employees, but what is the challenge there is that we have more phases. The phases are a bit more complex, and when you start, for example, you can gather the data by surveys. If you have some kind of pain points, most of employers know, okay, our pain point is, I don't know, in progress phase. People don't know if they will change their roles. They don't know what is the salary ranges or whatever. Okay, let's focus on this phase. Or, for example, the onboarding is our pain point. We know we are not good at it, and then use this kind of methodology to fix these concrete problems. You can, of course, use it holistically, but these kind of projects are pretty complex, and it takes a lot of time to fix some concrete stuff. So yeah, I hope I gave a bit more insights now.
I think it's very, very interesting, and I want to ask you maybe also about insights which you had during your experience of using design thinking. And before I want to share my experience. One is about communication and understanding the audience. Was but in one industrial company, they prepared the profiles of different audience, and it was very interesting about the Gen Z audience. Usually they are different from any other audience, but here they was very, very close to their colleagues from Gen X, and which why we understand what we need not, but for a lot of proposals which we want to design for them, we should be closer to any other employees. And the second insight, I remember how we worked with the company when you talked about parking spot. I remember one of my clients, they had a problem with recruiting process. What they rented an office in a building, and the people who was safeguards in this building was not a person who was very open to communicate with candidates. So the person was start to feel themselves that this company is not very good. It was very difficult to say every day what it's not a problem. This is the people who manage this building. What do they decided? They understand this problem and they just to fix it. What their recruiter would come and meet candidates before the reception, helps to come through this process, and it improves the impression of the candidates from this company. So this is my examples. I try to give you more time for preparing maybe your insight, because I think it's very interesting to know with general ideas about tools, but it's very interesting to know how it helps companies to get insights with maybe not usual. Unexpected, something unexpected, but design thinking tools helps you to see this. Could you share one more ideas, what type of insights and communication in EVP process or employee experience company would have if they start to use design thinking tools?
So yeah, there is a lot of examples, and what I wanted to mention that is pretty normal thing is that when you are inside of a company for some time, it's like you are in some kind of bubble. Like you are in the system, you are working with your people. Maybe you got used to some processes. You maybe sometimes don't want to change some stuff. Change is always hard. It's always scary. So it's totally normal to sometimes not see some insights, or just be totally focused on some operational tasks, and then, wow, okay, this is really important, we really have to take care of this. So there is a lot of stories, and what I would like to say is that most of the solutions that I saw that really work in practice are not something that really takes a lot of your time. Of course, you can, invest more. You can always create something huge. But for example, one case was about one company that has a very good brand, and they're investing. So they have a lot of applications, especially for their programs for young talents. And this simple initiative actually connected them more with the audience, because out of, let's say, 600 people, only 20 will join the program. And what they understood by some kind of research and actually talking to these young talents is that they are aware that a low number of talents will join this program. And then they started developing this talent pool management base. So, okay, what are the things we can do for these young talents in order to have some kind of good connection with them? Okay, they are aware it's a cool program, but what we can do for them? And some kind of things they did are also just, let's say, a human-centric approach, and they don't you don't really need to invest that much. So what they started doing, and this is like why sometimes talent pool management can really be useful for you, they started sending out some kind of courses and some kind of blog materials that can help them prepare for the first job. So all of them are looking for the first job. They won't be joining this company, but this company is still helping them in this process. And then after some time, they saw the engagement rate is really huge. They actually started being some kind of their ambassadors, even though they won't be joining this year. And then they decided to create a whole conference and the event for these people, just to give them some additional value, because they really like to invest in them. And this was amazing because they helped transferring these kids from different cities to come to them in order to deliver this conference and this education. Okay, this was a big investment, of course, but what I wanted to say is that if you have some kind of talent pool, and I'm sure you have it, and it's super easy to manage it by any ATS, sometimes thinking about people who are waiting, or people who would like to stay in your talent pool, but maybe are potential for the future, or maybe they won't be even joining you, but they are your ambassadors. You can really showcase some connection and really leave a good impression pretty easily. So this is also another example I have. Yeah.
It's very great. As for me, I think in the era of artificial intelligence, the design thinking help us to save a human touch in what we are doing, because we are working with the people, and the people-centric approach. It's much more important, became more important for companies, especially if we decided to use different tools. Katarina, thanks a lot for the very interesting discussion, the deep discussion about design thinking. I have one additional questions for you, because as I said in the beginning, I have guests from absolutely different countries. And when we are working in different countries, it's very interesting to know about the countries and trends. I know what you are very active person on your market. You mentioned what you have your community. I know what you have very wonderful event, and if you could share with our audience information about your community events, it will be very absolutely interesting for them also. And my questions for you is one of the most active person on the Serbian market, at least. What are the main trends in the area of employer branding, in the area of HR, could you see for the next year? Because we are really very close to the next year, and what could you share?
Okay. So yeah, the first thing you asked is about our community, and thank you for supporting us. So our community is called Ample, and our flagship event, Ample Festival, is happening in October. So this year we had fourth festival, fourth edition, It was pretty interesting because we started doing it back in Corona times. So it stayed a hybrid event, so people can join us in person here in Belgrade or online. And our topic for this year was how to human at work. And we were really inspired by bringing this human into businesses and how to keep this human touch, because a lot of these technology trends really impacted the way we approach some processes. And it was amazing. It was a 2 days event, and some kind of festival we will organize next year too. But yeah, we're pretty open for internationals, and this festival is mainly in English, so anyone can join basically. While Ample community is mostly focused on Serbia, or maybe let's say on Balkans, because this year we also visited Croatia. It was a very amazing meetup. We like to gather from time to time and to exchange, to learn some new stuff and to see what is going on. And what we like to do on our events is to make them pretty much interactive, to organize some kind of workshops or business cafes in order for people to connect with each other. So if you are interested in joining us or exploring more, ample.rs is our website, so you can reach out, or you can reach out to me. Of course, I will be very happy to welcome you here. And you mentioned trends. It's very interesting because actually yesterday we had our meetup here in Belgrade, and we were discussing what will be the trends, or what will be our, let's say, career focus for next year. So what are the topics people are thinking about in Serbia? So one thing happened during this year is that we really felt the crisis and the impact of the layoffs. Companies are mostly investing in employee experience and also in supporting middle managers, because a lot of changes happened, and then a lot of changes really impacted the roles internally and who is dealing with what. So a lot of focus is on internal, let's say, employer brand management, but also all the processes are really interconnected. So I think this is something that's pretty important for our market. We keep speaking about AI. Of course, we are all using it, but we are sure that when we speak about quality or about customization of the solutions, we really need to have this human touch and really need to be there in order to keep on track what's going on. But AI can help us doing things faster or analyzing data faster. So we are still learning how to do it. And what was very interesting, and I really love this topic, I'm happy it came out from the community too, is about this skill of facilitation. So how do we approach problems? How do we do, let's say, facilitation and stakeholder management? Like who is important for which question, how we will engage them, and also how to keep this employer branding as a very strategic and important topic for our C-level stakeholders, and to speak their language, like how to present everything through numbers, how to present our impact, why is this important. So I would say that these topics are pretty interesting for our market right now. So it's mostly internally oriented.
Thanks a lot for all, and I have a last question, since time is coming very fast usually, and I have a last questions for you. It's also the usual questions for all my guests. It's about advice. What three main advice could you give to companies who want to use design thinking as approach and the tools of a design thinking for improving their employer brand management process? What is three main focus you want to mention in the end of our conversation?
Okay, so one thing is that this methodology really exists for a long time. There is a lot of examples, a lot of free tools, a lot of courses online right now you can explore. So my first advice would be just start exploring the methodology and start reading the materials, or do some course, of course, if you can. I believe like everywhere around the world, we can find a very good quality books or courses in this topic. So just start with that and try to see if this resonates with you. Like, do you see yourself doing this or not? Because sometimes, okay, maybe this methodology is not for you, and that's fine. So I would really suggest for you to just meet it a bit deeper and then see if you really feel like, oh, okay, I can do this, or no, this is like too much for me. So this is the first step. The second step would be, or the second advice would be, start small. It's not about you changing the whole organization or the whole company culture or the way you do stuff. It's impossible. But, as I mentioned, how I just started, okay, let's do personas a bit differently. Okay, when we do some kind of, for example, you have New Year's presents or 5-year presents for your employees, how you will do this, how you will actually find a solution for this. You can start small. You can start with some tools from design thinking and to see, okay, what will happen, how will people react, and just start with that. Or you can map out the candidate experience and then see what will happen after. So you have a lot of examples online. You have a lot of free tools, so you can start small and then see what will happen if this works for you. To just be agile in this way too. And the third thing is something that's maybe long-term advice, is that if you see a huge potential in this methodology, I would really advise you to have one person that is really dedicated towards these topics. So if you want to have strategic employer branding processes, if someone is not managing these full time, you won't be having results, And I see in most of cases, it's someone who is doing recruitment and employer branding, or if someone who is doing internal communications, employee experience, and employer branding. So I see these hybrid roles a lot. But if you want to really make a huge change, I would really advise you to have one person that is full time in employer branding strategic role, and I think you will really feel it pretty fast.
Katarina, thanks a lot for this conversation, and I absolutely recommend to all my audience following you, at least on LinkedIn, to enter to your community.
Thank you.
I really appreciate what you share, a lot of information from your pages, from your social media accounts, and I hope we could stay in touch.
Of course.
Thanks to you, and thanks for everyone. This is podcast Happy at Work, and see you again in the future in our podcast.